of the top 10 teams in the country, let's start with 5, Tennessee, LSU 6, Southern Cal 7, Alabama, Clemson, and Utah. Which of those 6 teams, in your opinion, no matter what, have no chance of getting to the playoff? Which of them?
Say them again.
Tennessee, LSU, this is in order, 5 through 10. Which of those 6 have no chance at all, no matter what happens in front of them, of getting into the college football playoff semifinals? Tennessee, LSU, USC, Alabama, Clemson, and Utah.
I think Utah doesn't.
Okay. 2 losses. They have a chance to play. They beat USC.
Yeah. And I think Alabama doesn't because they won't play in the title game and they will have already lost to LSU.
You need to go wash your mouth out with soap.
But, I mean, it would just like that. The mental gymnastics that you would have to pull as the committee to say Alabama, in spite of all that, is better than these teams because
to me it would crumble if any integrity they have.
If LSU loses to anyone ahead on their schedule that's not named Georgia, then we're not in this conversation, right? So they'd be out. But I do think LSU has a chance because I do think that the committee believes the SEC champion has that much more weight to it. And if that's the case, then FSU should get a New Year's Six bowl.
All right. Alabama, no. Clemson?
Yeah, I think they have a chance. Absolutely. If you win the next 3 for Clemson and beat North Carolina, who's got a juggernaut offense, then I mean,
all right, USC.
Yeah, of course. I mean, they're USC, and if they win out, then they're going to be Pac-12 champions.
You know, I hear that. I get that they're USC, or we talk about other logos that are maybe like let's say it's Miami. Let's say it's Oklahoma or Texas. Oklahoma has been good for about 20 consecutive years with stubbing their toe 2 or 3 times, including this year. But they're USC, but when was the last time they were really USC?
Well, and yes, but we can't pretend like it doesn't matter.
No, but when was the last time they were USC?
2000, and I mean, it was before they were double digits behind the 2000s. So
they had the 04 national 3 and 4, and then lost to Texas in 05.
But look, if they win out, it will be over UCLA, Notre Dame, and then whoever they do wind up playing in the Pac-12 championship game.
Which could be a rematch with Utah.
Yeah.
And maybe avenge a loss or wipe out a loss, which was 43-42.
Yeah, so,
and by the way, Boo Corrigan, your best buddy. So last night he was talking about the game with USC's one of their loss. Was a very emotional, he got it. He kind of tried to massage, and it was a tough loss. Utah went for 2. They made it. It was a great game. It's been one of like 25 of these this year. But he was massaging their loss. You see them massage some losses, and he's right. It was a very emotional on-the-road game. But you don't always see him do that when somebody else loses. It's like, they lost.
Yeah, well, and TCU will have a problem because the rest of their schedule is a 6-5 team right now.
Absolutely,
or a 6-4. So I'm sorry, they're 6-4 right now. Is a 6-4 team, and then who do they play?
Then they play Iowa State.
So
right now under 500.
Yeah, they have no excuses. So if they lose, but at TCU lost last week to Texas, that one might have gotten massaged a little bit more.
And it did because they also beat Texas. By beating them, even though they're 6-4 now. That kind of counted more than when they won a game against somebody else. So far, it appears to be this year.
And
except Oklahoma State, and then of course, and the way they came back to beat Kansas State too, and boat raced Oklahoma.
Yeah, the TCU Kansas State rematch, if it does in fact happen, which it's certainly on the tracks to right now, will be really interesting for the committee to mull over as well because if TCU loses that game, they're obviously out, but if Georgia loses the game to LSU, shouldn't the same consideration be put on them?
No, they should.
That's the thing. I do think that. Yep. But I mean, a lot of these things we say are could happen, aren't going to happen. And Garrett, I know it would bring you great joy if LSU beat Georgia. But as good as they've played, where LSU has lost this year, I would say the 2 teams that have beaten them and the team that they had the hardest time beating outside of that were the 3 deepest teams that they've played, and getting deeper as it went down the line in Florida State, Tennessee, and then Alabama. And Georgia is deeper than all of them.
I mean, they are, but I don't see a way that you could really justify LSU getting into the CFP. And I'm a fan. I just even if they beat Georgia, how do you reconcile like the loss to Tennessee? Like you mentioned, Smokey, the loss to Tennessee. There's just too many factors.
Now, if
there.
Tennessee was 17th,
right,
or 12th,
well, that's different. But they're
right there in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Beat Alabama, beat LSU badly.
Yeah.
What's Tennessee's only loss? Georgia. And so their loss is to the number 1 overall team. LSU's loss is to a team right in front of them. Okay, the number 5 team or whatever it is. But then there's that Florida State hickey, even though it was a bizarre ending to that game. All right, the chat room's going on. I'm going to read some of those today. Appreciate your time. Every day, 3 to 6 right here on 365 Sports. And we try to bring you what we can. We wide open here in the first hour. We've tried to do that a little bit more as with the playoffs are getting closer. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And so let's do this. Let's break here. And when we come back, I'm going to read some of, if you have a comment or you want to refresh whatever you said earlier, a comment about the college football playoffs, the release of the standing. We're not arguing. The first week, we're like, oh, my God, and we always do this. We jump over the cliff into nothing except like death. Because we look at that first one, and Craig has said this, and Paul has said this, and I've said that, and others. I'm not going to overreact to the first week, but then you always see the hypocrisy. I'm not arguing really with any of the top 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not arguing because nothing really happened other than a team, Alabama, Clemson, moving up a notch, and Utah moved up 3. Oregon dropped 6. UCLA dropped 4. Washington went up 8. But what we always try to look at is why is Oklahoma State 22? Or why is X, Y, and Z all of a sudden in at 24? Remember the SEC, like 3 weeks in a row, it seemed like. Whether it was Kentucky or South Carolina one year, one game. Like, why are they putting them in there? Are they trying to help paint a better picture for somebody in the top 5, 6, or 7?
If putting Oklahoma State in,
then that would help use
that helps TCU.
Yes, it should.
And it should.
So, hey, if we're going to say that about the SEC, then and by the way, that could be protecting TCU. I doubt it, but it could be.
But if you want to go into, tragic things that have befallen a program and say why they're not at full strength and why they're better than their record may indicate, everybody being hurt at once and not being able to practice, hold regular practices. They were I think they had one real practice that week before they lost to Kansas State.
Oklahoma State
had one real. They were trying to do it different to keep everybody healthy,
and we're not taking that away from K-State because they beat the living hell out of Oklahoma State.
But if you I'm just doing committee logic here,
right?
When they say, well, Bright,
did you say logic in the committee?
But that's their. Yeah.
I know.
Alabama's loss or near loss to A&M isn't that bad because Bryce Young didn't play. All right, I'll see your Bryce Young and raise you everybody.
Yeah. All right.